Very interesting, man. Very, very interesting. So this is Frank Pope's YouTube channel. Let me look and see if I can get it pulled up for you guys real quick. If you guys have not subscribed to this brother, I highly recommend y'all go subscribe to him. Let me get his channel pulled up here real quick. Some of you guys already know who he is. So this is leaked audio of an ex-Vanderbilt player. Now, just like I stated, I don't know the validity of.
Things appear to be escalating for Stephanie White and the Indiana Fever. New claims, described as unverified, are tied to a conversation supposedly held with a one-time Vanderbilt athlete. The identity of that athlete has not been made public, likely by personal choice. The story has gained traction because the claims attributed to this former player raise real concerns about how the Vanderbilt women's basketball program was run.
I can't confirm that it's an actual player. I have to just give y'all transparency there. But one thing we can say, if this brother really did get a former player to speak on his podcast, that is outstanding journalism. I just have to give credit to where credit is due. That is outstanding for him. If he landed that interview, this is big time business. Let's listen to some of this here, man.
Over the past few weeks, maybe.
During White's time leading the team in Nashville, Tennessee, several issues have surfaced involving her leadership, including reported tension and conflict within the team setting. Audio said to feature this former Vanderbilt athlete circulated recently. The authenticity of the recording cannot be verified, and no one has confirmed the speaker's identity. If genuine, securing such an interview would represent a notable reporting achievement.
Over the past few weeks, maybe even years, Fever fans, we have been asking the same question. What exactly is going on behind the scenes in the locker room with the Indiana Fever? What's happening? Then I interviewed a former Vanderbilt player who had a lot to say about what was going on inside of their locker room while Stephanie White was there. And let's just say it sounds eerily familiar. I'll let you hear it for yourself. Okay, here we go. Let's play this clip. No further.
In the recording, the speaker describes repetitive conditioning drills, running sprints back and forth dozens of times before games. The speaker claims top players were frequently injured and not properly cared for. Game film sessions are described as ineffective and often based on faulty scouting reports. As an example, the speaker recalls being told an opposing player wasn't a shooting threat, only for that player to hit 10 three-pointers and finish with a career-high scoring performance.
Here we go. Let's play this clip. No further ado.
Yeah, basically up, down. So, down and back, down and back, down and back, down and back. We'd probably run about 40 of those and then have to go play a game. Our star players would be hurt all the time. They weren't taken care of the way they needed to be taken care of. Film was pointless. Most of the time, her film was incorrect. It would be like, oh, she's not a shooter, we're not going to guard her, and then she'd make 10 threes against us, and she'd have an all-time scoring game.
The speaker also states the coaching staff rarely reviewed what went wrong after losses. This account draws comparisons to recent Fever games, including a matchup against the Golden State Valkyries, where a player came off the bench and scored around 25 points, while the Fever bench appeared unprepared to respond. If the claims hold up, they suggest White's game preparation has focused mainly on standout opposing threats rather than the full opposing roster, a significant flaw for any coaching staff. Proper preparation requires accounting for every player who might contribute, including role players coming off the bench, which depends on thorough film study.
What else? We didn't really go over what we did wrong.
Now, if this is true, and this former player just said this, right? Don't this seem like what happened? Who did they play? I think they played the Valkyries. I think it was Taylor. When a Taylor young lady went off for like 25, all these players that be coming off the bench just clowning. Because if this is true, which it seemed like it very much could be, I can't stamp it because we don't know. She ain't show her face or nothing.
If the Fever staff is failing in this area, the issue extends beyond White alone, since several assistants on the current staff did not arrive with her from Connecticut and were already part of the organization. If those assistants aren't adequately preparing the roster, it points to a broader staff-wide problem. Continuing the account, The speaker says practices ran excessively long, sometimes stretching past 4 hours, leaving players physically drained heading into games. The speaker characterizes this as poor team management.
Because we don't know, she ain't show her face or nothing. But this sounds very familiar because this shows and proves Stephanie White do not prepare the team for the entire roster. She only prepare the team for standout players, which is horrible as a coach. You have to prepare your team going into the game for the entire damn team. You gotta take accountability. So and so coming off the bench, she might hit you. She do this and that, and then that come with film study. So what if
the speaker then describes a turning point, being disciplined for arriving late to practice after a therapy session ran long, despite the therapist calling ahead to explain the delay was for the athlete's mental health. The punishment reportedly involved 2 weeks of 4 a.m. wake-ups for intense conditioning sessions. The speaker also mentions a teammate who was hospitalized in a psychiatric unit during this period, describing the overall environment as toxic, with the coaching staff allegedly pitting teammates against one another by sharing information selectively.
Off the bench, she might hit you. She do this and that, and then that come with film study. So what if the Fever coaching staff is not doing the proper preparation with film study, with preparing for these games? And if that is the case, this is bigger than a Stephanie White issue. This is a coaching staff issue because every coach that's on the staff did not come from Connecticut. Some of these coaches were here already, if I am not mistaken. Some of these coaches was here.
If accurate, these claims would be damaging to White's reputation. The fact that the alleged source has not appeared publicly is seen as understandable, given how organizations sometimes respond to such accounts. Separately, a sports commentary account on social media published a piece addressing the broader Fever coaching criticism. The piece states the writer felt compelled to speak out, not because criticism of the staff was unwarranted, but because legitimate concerns were dismissed for too long.
Not mistaken. Some of these coaches was here already, and if they're not preparing these young ladies to go out here and ball out and do everything they need to do, that means that the entire staff is trash. But let's finish listening, man.
Honestly, we just kind of watched. We didn't really break anything down the way we should have, I don't think. Practices were entirely too long. Like, we're in there for over the time, like 4 hours, 4.5 hours of practice. Didn't matter.
The writer describes early pushback from fans being characterized as a lack of basketball knowledge or worse, rather than legitimate observation. The piece argues that mistakes have become too significant to ignore. Opposing coaches are exploiting predictable rotations. Defensive lapses are increasingly visible. Offensive sets lack flow, and the coaching staff appears unable to maximize Caitlin Clark's impact on the floor. The writer states that media reaction to fan criticism has often been dismissive rather than open, and argues that raising these issues isn't about wanting the league to struggle, but about protecting it and protecting Clark from being underutilized by an organization and league that may not fully grasp what they have. The piece lists several concerns: an overmatched coaching staff, a franchise that has not capitalized on a historic opportunity, a major endorsement deal that wasn't given the promotional spotlight it deserved, and questions surrounding her representation.
I think many of us believe this team is not going anywhere. All right? Again, I have not looked at the the standings at this point for the playoffs. All I know is you've got what's supposed to be a big three on this team, a superstar big three, allegedly, and you're 9-7 after 16 games. You came into this game seventh overall.
The writer argues the league seems more focused on controlling narratives around Clark than fully showcasing her abilities, warning that if her visibility fades, the league won't just lose her individual draw, it will lose the broader attention she generated. The writer notes that some mainstream commentators have recently begun raising similar questions that fans were previously mocked for asking, crediting persistent fan pushback for that shift. The piece also credits other knowledgeable fans and analysts who raised these concerns earlier, with supporting film and statistics. urging readers not to let anyone dismiss legitimate criticism as something else. The piece concludes that the WNBA sought mainstream attention, got it through Clark, and now faces accountability, warning that continued mismanagement risks harming both her and the league's future.
That's not going to get it done. You know, we've been very vocal, and today was sort of like to be honest with you, it was sort of like the point, look, told you so moment for a lot of us. A little bit of vindication for, oh, y'all think we're being hyperbolic, blah, blah, blah. Really? You think that? Do you still think that?
Discussion turns to the fallout from a lopsided defeat, marking a second consecutive loss for the team. Analysts had previously warned that caution was needed against stronger opponents. Wins over teams like the Seattle Storm and Toronto Tempo are one thing, but against squads with real size and length, the roster's defensive gaps become exposed. Many observers now believe this group is not heading anywhere meaningful this season.
Do you still think that? I mean, seriously. And allegedly, there's some rumors going around out there that Stephanie White and Caitlin Clark had some words. We know for a fact they had words at one point today during this game. Venom caught it during the game. Let's just check this out.
Current playoff standings haven't been fully reviewed at this point, but the numbers speak for themselves. A roster built around a supposed star trio sits at 9 wins and 7 losses through 16 games, entering this matchup ranked 7th overall. That record isn't going to cut it. Critics who had been outspoken about these issues feel a sense of vindication now, after being accused of exaggerating the team's problems. Reports have also surfaced suggesting tension between head coach Stephanie White and guard Caitlin Clark, with confirmed friction occurring at some point during the game itself, caught on camera by another outlet.
Let's just check this out. Go subscribe to Venom Reacts, folks.
Phenomenal job all season long getting to the paint.
Of course.
Stephanie White,
Of course.
They're having words right there.
Caitlin she ain't trying to hear none of that, man. Look at her shaking her head.
Figured you could handle the free throws.
I got him.
Thanks.
Like show stuff.
Really sticky though.
Even on your birthday, you pissing her off. This is just bad, man. This is just bad. And then it brings us to the next one. And then look right here, Caitlin's arguing with the coaching staff.
Footage shows the two having a tense exchange on the sideline. Clark appears unwilling to engage further, visibly shaking her head. White can be heard referencing missed free throws, to which Clark responds defensively. The exchange is notably tense, even occurring on Clark's birthday.
And then look right here, Caitlin's arguing with the coaching staff. She's trying to talk to Austin Kelly once again because Stephanie White doesn't understand it. Y'all remember last year when Stephanie White was drawing up the BS and Caitlin Clark left the huddle?
Okay. Now, look, they can say publicly that everything's fine and it's hunky-dory, and I don't believe that. I'm not going to believe it. Not with exchanges like that. And Caitlin Clark.
Shortly after, another clip shows Clark in a heated discussion with assistant coach Austin Kelly rather than White directly, echoing a similar incident from the previous season when Clark reportedly walked away from a huddle during one of White's instructions. Publicly, both parties may insist everything is fine, but based on these visible exchanges, that narrative is hard to accept. Clark's frustration appears evident. Attention shifts to fan and media reaction, which has been intense following the loss.
I'm not going to believe it. Not with exchanges like that. And Caitlin Clark is extremely frustrated. And we'll get to the fans because, holy crap, the backlash after this loss, I don't know if this is a wake-up call for everybody or what. I literally just read an article from Robin Lundberg, and he was pretty damn critical. I even shared it on my Twitter, and I said, good job, Robin. I called out the media.
A widely shared piece from a sports commentator was notably harsh in its assessment, prompting public agreement from other media figures online. One specifically praising the writer for holding fellow journalists accountable, noting that outlets typically focus on trivial matters like warm-up routines instead of real issues facing the franchise. The same commentator questioned whether reporters would ever ask meaningful questions following the team's late-season collapse, directing particular scrutiny toward the head coach. A wave of fan comments follows. Read aloud and reacted to. The ratio of likes to comments on one post is highlighted as unusually lopsided, suggesting widespread dissatisfaction. Comments include accusations that the coaching staff isn't being taken seriously, that this loss represents a breaking point for many fans, and harsh personal criticism directed at White, including calls for her removal from coaching entirely.
My Twitter, and I said, good job, Robin. I called out the media. I'm sure he didn't write that because I called out the media, but now people are watching what everybody is writing. Absolutely. Indiana Fever Media following this loss. Quote, Stephanie, how do you feel about being in this league for as long as you have been, celebrating your birthday with the team? It must be special, huh? But man, they sure do know how to turn that phone sideways and record warm-ups, am I right? That's Ben Daniel. Go subscribe.
Additional comments call for the entire coaching staff to be dismissed, noting the irony of a defensive-minded coaching staff overseeing such poor defensive performance. The front office is also criticized for lack of roster moves. One player is labeled a bust, another accused of failing to develop under this coaching system, with blame placed on coaching rather than the players themselves. A rookie is given some leeway due to inexperience, but is predicted to remain a bench player long-term. Another player is criticized as a liability on offense, with one fan feeling fully justified in previous criticism of her play.
That's Ben Daniel. Go subscribe. That's Ben Daniel blatantly saying, is the media going to actually inquire about anything substantial? Fever collapses. Put spotlight on Stephanie White. Robin Lundberg. Okay, good job. I mean, I'm not fixing to, I'm not going to I'm going to call a spade, but I mean.
Some commenters state they've stopped watching altogether, calling the team aimless. A statistical comparison draws attention to pay disparity between two players, with one fan joking that this discrepancy alone justifies firing everyone in the organization. A quick stat check shows the higher-performing player scored 19 points on 8 for 13 shooting, reinforcing the fan's point.